respects to those kings and queens. Forgive what they say, don't mean a thing. And pay my respects to the ones in need, who lost themselves out there in the deep. Like the rest of us, only we can see. So lay me down in the river mouth, so I can lay my soul down there. And I don't care if I won't be found, just lay me down in the river mouth. Oh. Respects to the ones I loved, who held the cards but never called my bluff. And pay my respects to my enemies, yeah, for they made me who I'm meant to be. Like the storm that shook the ship at sea. I can't lay my soul down there. And I don't care if I won't be found, just lay me down in the river mouth. So lay me down in the river mouth, so I can't lay my soul down there. And I don't care if I won't be found, just lay me down in the river. So lay me down in the river mouth, so I can't lay my soul down there. And I don't care if I won't be found, just lay me down in the river mouth.
Garrett Kato, welcome to The Right Note.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
And thank you for playing that beautiful rendition of Rivermouth. I've seen you refer to that as lyrically a collection of post-it notes. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I kind of had this moment when I woke up one day and I was just kind of feeling a bit sort of thankful for a lot of things I had sort of in my life and almost kind of reflecting on my life in a way of something I thought initially was bad turned out to be a good thing because it kept me away from, a certain situation that maybe I didn't want to be in, For example, a label that was interested but it didn't work out. You think it's not a good thing, but then it ends up being a good thing. So yeah. It's sort of a basis around that, this sort of tiny little notes that I kind of made for myself. Then it just turned into a song.
Right.
Yeah, it's sort of a weird way to write a song. I don't normally do it like that, but...
I was going to ask, yeah. So that's... What do you think kind of made you go down that route? Was it just that waking up that morning and having those thoughts?
Yeah, I was kind of inspired by like Bob Dylan sometimes has songs where it's each line has its own meaning to itself in the cohesiveness of the song. I always love the idea of that because it kind of you can spend a lot of time on the one line. You don't have to, and it doesn't have to all be this one story. It can kind of grab you each line, because sometimes there's that one line in a Dylan song that grabs you and just takes you into that whoa, aha kind of moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's, really good songwriting has that. So I kind of was feeling inspired by that sort of, I don't know, I guess mode of transport creatively.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And is there the silver lining in that song? Is that typical of your writing? Do you always kind of tend to have a silver lining in there somewhere?
Yeah, sometimes. It really depends on the song, and what it's sort of triggered inside of me. But I don't mind having a sort of a positive spin on something or sort of a sense of care, some sort of relatively positive energy getting transferred, I find a lot of people say my music kind of is like a good friend that kind of is there for them when they're feeling down. They can kind of put it on and lean against it, sort of.
That's a good compliment.
Yeah, and I feel like, yeah, if I can provide that for people, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so you moved to Byron Bay from Canada at the age of 23.
Mm.
What was happening in Canada prior to that? What were you up to? What was your life like?
Yeah, it was, okay, so there was these 2 big radio station contests that I got into, and was kind of getting some, I guess, traction over there. And I did this record with this producer, Todd Simcoe, that did Xavier Rudd and things like that. I finished the record and I was super burnt out. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go visit my brother in Australia, and then met a girl, and then kind of things just
One thing led to another.
Yeah. Now I'm stuck in Australia. So yeah. But I wouldn't change it for the world. You know? Even it felt like I kind of took like a bunch of steps back maybe in my career, but sometimes life just has a way with you. It's just gonna, you can't control it.
Just gotta go with it.
Yeah.
Was it daunting making that move?
I wasn't really, I guess maybe because I'm an artist, I wasn't thinking it through, like, totally. I was kind of just like, I'm just going to go and, see what happens. And then I think the big sort of light bulb moment for me was when I started busking in Byron.
Yeah.
And I found myself, I was like, I can just make a living doing this. And
Yeah.
I couldn't do that in Canada because it's so cold.
Right.
So you can't go play on the street, really.
Yeah.
Unless you just can't. Literally, guitar would just freeze.
Really?
So yeah. So I kind of thought this is like a really good place for a musician to thrive, and so it kind of turned into a bit of a sort of like okay, maybe this is like another path I can take if I want to pursue music as well. So yeah.
How steep a learning curve was it then, if that was your first real experience of busking?
Yeah, well, busking's like it's like a whole different kind of performance, hey, because the first initial thing is the sort of sense of rejection you kind of feel.
Right.
Because people are just walking past you and they just don't, But then you get that crowd of people that are listening to you, and they all come up and buy your music and tell you that you did a great job or whatever. And it's a nice feeling because you feel like you really earned it, because there's no reason for them to say that.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like you were promoted to do this or they found you on the radio or there's some sort of factor. It's literally you're just standing there playing and they found you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the best way to connect with people, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you're yourself, but Ziggy Alberts has done a lot of busking. Going back to John Butler, made his name through busking as well. It's almost like a rite of passage for a lot of artists.
I think it's like a new, I wouldn't say platform, but it's just like I think it's just literally survival.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think there's any other reason other than like musicians need money. Like, okay, you can make some money doing this, and it feels better than playing at a big pub. So I'm going to do this, and and then it turns into a career over a long time.
Right.
And that's sort of so I feel like it's just literally, when everyone else says no, then you go to the street. Like if this label doesn't want to deal with you or this person, then you just say, okay, well, forget those guys. I'm just going to go play on the street and do it myself, whatever.
And then you look up one day and Casey Chambers is buying one of your CDs. She's stumbled across you. That's pretty wild.
That was a weird day. Well, the funny thing was I didn't even know, because I'm Canadian, I didn't know who she was. And she like tagged me on like a post and it went like crazy. And then, I asked a friend, I was like, who is this? It's like the biggest country singer. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then luckily I ran into her in a recording studio like a few days later, and it was just sort of almost like serendipitous, how we just ran into each other and hit it off, and then
That's
she took
wild.
me touring around everywhere. So
yeah. Have there been any other famous faces in the crowd?
in
Byron?
I guess Chris Hemsworth and those kinds of people, and I'm trying to think of other people. Michael Fassbender
Really?
hung around. Yeah. He didn't say anything. He just tipped some money and just kind of gave me this look of you're okay. I didn't know what to think. I was like, oh man, that's that guy from every movie that I like. It was a weird moment for sure.
Yeah,
so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And you're very busy outside of doing your own music with your production work, producing for Lionhart and Ziggy Alberts, and amongst others. Do you ever, learn things from these people that you then funnel back into your own music?
Yeah, well, I learned what I would do and wouldn't do, if that makes sense. And I feel like artists are so individual. It's almost like you can't replicate what they're going to do, but you can kind of take maybe a page from their book or something. But yeah, so I definitely do learn a lot, and even just the way they process a song creatively, or what's important to them in a song. And I don't think it's that important, but then I kind of think, oh, maybe that is important. And,
right.
you know, because there's so many variables when you're writing and recording music, you know, whether you want to make it sound perfect and then it's lifeless, or you make it sound rough and then it's too rough for people to listen to. You know, there's this sort of Goldilocks zone we all try to find. A lot of the Byron guys where it's, you know, polished enough, but it still has that sort of integrity, you know, in the music.
Do you have like a secret for getting good performances out of people?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like it depends on the person. Like Ziggy likes to record in the day, like early in the day.
Okay.
He's kind of like like mid-morning kind of guy. I find I get the best takes out of him, and you know, and I find I try not to get too excited when someone does a good take, because then they think that if I don't get excited the next time that their take was bad. So I try to just keep it kind of level, because then they aren't gonna feel thrown off if I'm not like, oh my God, that was great, you know, because then they're like, why didn't he do that time when I thought it was great? So things like that, you know, because I know what it's like to be in the booth singing your song, and you're like, I got to make this perfect, and you know, there's a lot going through your head when you're trying to do a take. So so I try to keep it nice and calm.
So you're like a producer / psychologist.
Yes, yeah, very much. Yeah, trying to keep the confidence level up, you know, but not too high, so they just slack off. Yeah, it's kind of it's a funny balance. Hey,
what's the most unique situation you've found yourself in recording? Like, have you gone somewhere that you wouldn't normally record, or gone outside, or like what's
well, actually,
to mind?
Ziggy's latest record, actually, he had this like bright idea of us to record in this chapel, and it was all hard surfaces. Actually a terrible place to record. Like, it just sounded like real busy and noisy, and I thought initially I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool, and then I kind of found out it was kind of more challenging, so we ended up just recording outside, and we ended up recording just like kind of strange places in the chapel, and it was, that was definitely the most challenging for sure. Yeah. Like a giant bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But you learned a lot.
I learned a lot, and definitely made a very unique sounding record. Like, you couldn't reproduce that unless you went to the exact place. Okay. The tones and the performances and things. So in that way, I think it's kind of special. But would I do it again? Probably not.
So the second song we're going to hear from you, "Where the Vampires Hide." I mean, I love that title. What does that title represent to you?
It's kind of, I guess, a vampire. It's like a mythological creature that essentially sucks the life out of you, right? And I thought of it as sort of a metaphor for kind of like maybe something in your life that is taking something away from you, but you don't even realize it. Whether it's like I have, 4 drinks every night, and I wake up feeling like not so good, and then you just don't notice it until it just chips away at you to the point where you're just not the same person you were before, And it could be someone in your life too that's just kind of creating these negative sort of energy for you, and you're kind of trying to figure out what's wrong. And that's kind of what it was about. It was just sort of a time in my life when I thought like, maybe I'm kind of partying too much, or things are getting a little out of hand, and I'm kind of forgetting what my place is in this world, I think every person that plays music's probably been there. Right. But yeah, I think it's a very common sort of process. It sneaks up on you, so I think it's where the vampires hide. It's like, where is this hiding? Can you find it? Yeah. Because if you don't, it's gonna maybe get the better of you.
I like it. Yeah. And so you had to hit the reset button.
Yeah, sort of. Just kind of just more self-awareness, Okay. Not just coasting all the time and not thinking about what you're eating or drinking every day and things like that. Because I think, like, you can't be too careful these days, I think, in many ways, with stuff like that. So, yeah, for sure.
All right. Yeah. Well, Garrett, thank you very much once again for coming on the show.
Oh, of course. No, my pleasure. Cheers. Thanks.
Everybody knows, trying hard, but I just can't let this go. Who I was to you back then. I remember drinking one too many, sinking in a time, remind myself the reasons why. You're the one who kept me in line, trying to remember who I am this time. But I think I'll be alright. much it hurts. Think I'll be alright. Yeah, I remember feeling worse without you. And no one knows the time it takes to heal a broken soul. Can't be a prisoner no more. I remember taking one too many, losing my mind, fighting